A vote to stop sending weapons to Israel overwhelmingly failing in the Senate, but that did not stop 19 Senate Democrats, led by Bernie Sanders, from supporting it. But while some Democrats want to stop supporting Israel, the incoming Republican majority is making its stance clear.
To our allies in Israel and to the Jewish people around the world, my message to you is this: reinforcements are on the way. Senate Republicans reclaim the majority in 6 weeks. And when we do, we will make clear that the United States Congress stands squarely in Israel's corner.
Mike Huckabee has been appointed to be U.S. ambassador to Israel by President-elect Trump, and he joins us now. I believe your proper title is now Ambassador Designate Huckabee, and we congratulate you wholeheartedly on this position and this honor. But it's clear that Israel does not have the support of the United States in all corners of the country, given that 19 senators just voted to block U.S. arms sales to Israel, which is our greatest ally in the Middle East. And Bernie Sanders led this effort, and he said that the reason we should do this, one of the reasons, is because Israel is run by religious zealots. What is your reaction to Bernie Sanders in this effort yesterday?
Well, Bernie is wrong on this as he is about economic policy, and it's very unfortunate. I want to be clear, I can't speak as an ambassador because I've got to go through Senate confirmation. I'm honored that the president has asked me to take this role, and I hope that I'll get through the Senate process. Until then, I'm certainly not speaking for the administration, the future one or the current one. But I want to be very clear. This is outrageous that these 19 senators don't understand what an ally means and why we need Israel as a strong ally and why they're important to us. This should be one of the most bipartisan and overwhelming understandings, and we're not asking to give things to Israel, but to sell them the things that they need to protect themselves against the annihilation that is intended toward them from Iran and from their proxies, Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis. This should be an easy call, and I don't know why these 19 senators are more in favor of terror than they are in peace.
How do you think our relationship with Israel would change when President Trump enters office?
President Trump was the most effective president in history when it comes to Israel in bringing about a level of peace and security for the Jewish state. He moved the embassy. He recognized the Golan Heights. He recognized Jerusalem as the eternal capital of the Jewish state. There were so many ways in which President Trump really brought forward, and the historic Abraham Accord should have earned him the Nobel Peace Prize. And the only reason it didn't was because there were people who were just prejudiced against him. But that was a breakthrough, a sizable breakthrough that hopefully he'll be able to build upon, and I have every confidence that he will.
It seems whenever we refer to Israel, the word head scratcher always comes into play. This decision that you guys were just talking about to vote against sending arms to Israel, head scratcher. And then there's this, the U.S. vetoing a draft resolution on the Gaza ceasefire during the UN Security Council vote because we wanted to make sure that a ceasefire included the hostages. Governor Huckabee, how could it not include the hostages? I mean, they've done nothing wrong. They were kidnapped. They've been in captivity for over a year. Why not include them?
Yeah, for over 400 days, Todd, the hostages have been held, and it's really pathetic that at least 7 of those hostages are U.S. citizens. We don't hear anything about that. And I really do appreciate the fact that the Biden administration in the UN did stop that from happening, this ridiculous resolution. It was absurd and insulting. But to say that we're going to have some type of ceasefire without getting those hostages back is an insult to anyone's intelligence. And I'm glad the U.S. decided to spike that one right in the ground.
I want to get your reaction to this. New York Times columnist Thomas Friedman, who is a Biden backer, he recently said Donald Trump has a chance to be a historic president with a major Middle East deal. He writes, quote, Trump was the rare American president who actually put out a detailed plan for coexistence between Israelis and Palestinians. If that Trump revives that initiative in 2025, he could be remembered as the president who preserved Israel as a Jewish democracy and helped to securely birth a Palestinian state alongside it. Is that possible under the president-elect?
I think anybody that knows Donald Trump understands that there's very few people on earth who can put a deal together any better than he can. So I'm convinced that if there's any hope for resolving what has been a long-standing conflict, Donald Trump's going to find a way to do it. And I go back to the Abraham Accords. No one thought that was possible. But it not only was possible, it was done.
Right.
And if he'd still been in office, I think we would have seen it expand even more.
That's right.
Governor Huckabee, thank you so much for joining us. Congratulations on the nomination.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.